And the first thing you form is sort of your butt crack, the beginning of your spinal cord. What is it that makes you so big and manly and important? It's the smallest, most puny, pathetic chromosome there is. Male and female is just biological reality, no genders, okay? There's biological sex and there's personality.
Redeem Academy.
Yo, what is up, Science Squirrels? Johnny here with Redeem Academy. I am here to help you get the most out of your education through content that gives God all the glory that He deserves. We're in the DNA unit, lesson 2 today, all about cell division and chromosomes. Today I'm going to be telling you 3 things. I'll be telling you why chromosomes have different shapes, how your chromosomes determine your sex, and how chromosomes change during cell division. The big question today, how does biology show that God only created 2 sexes? Gonna get a little spicy.
Why is it spicy?
If you need a notebook to follow along, you can get one at redeemacademy.org. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Let's get into it. I've got some videos for you showing cell division. All right, this is awesome. Here are some chromosomes that are duplicating as we speak, and they're becoming double-sided, and then they'll split almost immediately. You can see, boom, boom, they just duplicated and split, and then they come apart, and there's a cell plate that forms between them, which means this is happening in a plant. Then we're going to switch over to cell division in an egg of some kind, probably an embryo of a little bug or something, and you see the cells split apart, but they stay contained in that egg. Now we've got some sweet background music, and there's a whole bunch of videos of kidney cells undergoing mitosis. They have stained the cytoskeleton green, and so every cytoskeleton protein in the cell is green, but then they've stained the DNA red, and so the chromosomes look red. You can see, I'm going to pause it, you can see what a nucleus normally looks like right here on the side. Most of the cells are always just kind of hanging out being a nucleus, but when the cell divides, I'm going to back it up here, you see that it becomes more bright and the chromosomes have a brighter appearance to them. Okay, now just for a moment, you see it's kind of a normal nucleus, and then it becomes chromosomes, and you see those chromosomes appear and then line up, and now they're going to pull apart. Now this is all happening, they've done a time-lapse video on this, and so and then it pulls apart, and every stage of cell division has a name. They've made a time-lapse video of this. It probably took, I don't know, 20 minutes for cell division to happen, and they made it happen in 10 seconds there. So I slowed it down so we could see it all again. And then the chromosomes sort of come apart again and form a normal nucleus after cell division is over. So for the most part, cells do not have their chromosomes just hanging out. They usually let the DNA spread out, but the chromosomes form only right before and during cell division. You can see that there's cytoskeleton proteins involved in pulling the chromosomes apart, and you see whole new cells form. All right, now here's another video of cell division. This one's a much higher quality video, but there's the first cell division after fertilization. There's the second, there's the third. You're going from 2 to 4 to 8 to 16 to 32, and the cell just keeps dividing and dividing. Now this happens to be a salamander. And so this is a 6-minute video. We're not going to watch this whole video, but you get the idea that you start as a single fertilized egg, okay, 1 cell with in humans 46 chromosomes, 23 from mom, 23 from dad. It begins to dive down, and the first thing you form is sort of your butt crack, the beginning of your spinal cord, and you just keep developing and developing. So as I click through, you can just see how this thing starts to develop, and when it's a salamander, that's the beginning of the butt crack, right down there, and that's your brain up there. And so that's like the kind of the first thing you develop, and it works about the same in humans. And then over time, in things that grow in an egg only, that don't have a uterus to suck nutrients from, they develop what's called a yolk sac that they suck stuff out of. So this is the back side. These are going to be the arms. That's the tail, but there you can see it's in a bag. And you were in a bag in your mother's womb, and now it's starting to get pigment on its skin. It's got a tail, and I'm just zooming through this, but this is the beginning of a salamander. And salamander or any amphibian's a really good thing to look at because it kind of grows up as a thing that will swim around in the water. You can see its gills now, and eventually it'll break free. Maybe that's what this peak right here represents, the moment the thing's going to escape. Yeah, boom. And now the salamander is free and in the water. And salamanders at first breathe mostly through their skin and then a little bit through their gills eventually. But that's the way God designed vertebrates to work, is a sperm fertilizes an egg and makes a single cell. And from that single cell, cells divide and divide and divide until here today. Here I am still. My cells are dividing and making me who I am, and that's part of why I age. You can kind of count someone's age by how many cell divisions their cells have gone through. So this basic process of a cell splitting into two cells is called cell division. So cell division is the process of one cell splitting to make two cells. So that was a whole bunch of information about cell division. Pretty cool. The tissues in your body are made of cells. A lot of them are currently dividing. Not all of them divide anymore. But when you were a baby in the womb, your cells were dividing like crazy to turn you into the human that you are today, just the body that you have anyway. And today what I want to focus on, in addition to talking a little more about cell division, is what's going on with chromosomes and why do they have the shapes they do before and after cell division. Now, every once in a while, a person might have a special test done called a karyotype, where they actually want to look at your chromosomes. To do this, they go and they get your blood, but they don't look at your red blood cells. They actually look at your white blood cell. And they'll take your white blood cell and they'll get all the chromosomes out of it right before it goes through cell division. And those chromosomes will look like this. So this is what chromosomes actually look like under a microscope if they separate them out from the cell. And then, I don't know how they do this. It's probably those laser tweezers we heard about in another video. But they can actually piece out which chromosomes are which. And every chromosome has a special banding pattern on it. And the banding pattern is basically like how there's a dark area here, and then a dark area here, and a dark area here. Sort of like the zebra stripes on the chromosome. So every chromosome has its own unique zebra stripes. Like there's 46 chromosomes, so chromosome number 1 has certain dark spots, and chromosome number 2 has certain dark spots, and so on. And there's a special job like some people have, that like people I majored with in college. I think you have to have a bachelor's degree to get it, so you have to go to college for 4 years. But you can become a lab technician, like in a hospital, and you run these sort of tests and do these tests and then sort these chromosomes somehow. And so you take the chromosomes, you sort them out, and you find all their chromosomes. One of the things you could figure out from this is whether it's a boy or a girl. And right here, if it's XY, it's a boy. I'm a real boy! Boys have an X chromosome and a Y chromosome. Girls, on the other hand, have 2 X chromosomes. So this is going to be a girl. So if we come over to our notes here, this is called a karyotype. And a karyotype is just the picture of all of your chromosomes that scientists can take. And like I mentioned, the one thing down here is whether you have the XX or the XY. And they call it a Y because this one right here is kind of stumpy and little. And so it kind of looks like the letter Y. The X chromosome is big and very important, and boys have to have one of those. And if you're a boy and you have one of those, it came from your mom. Girls get an X chromosome from their dad. And they also get an X chromosome from their mom. So they have 2 X chromosomes. Boys get the X chromosome from their mom, and then their dad gives them the Y chromosome. So here's a colored picture from an electron microscope of the X and the Y chromosome. And so they're not really pink and blue, but that just helps you understand which one's which. But look at the Y chromosome. I think it's really funny that we as men, we think like, I'm a man, I'm different, I'm special, I'm unique, I'm big, I'm manly. And then you look at the Y chromosome. The Y chromosome is the smallest chromosome. It has the fewest genes, and it's what makes us men. So what is it that makes you so big and manly and important? It's the smallest, most puny, pathetic chromosome there is. But one gene in particular, this gene called SRY, turns on a lot of other genes and does cause men to be different. than women. One of the key genes that SRY turns on is the gene for testosterone. And you start pushing testosterone, the hormone, through a man, and he changes. It even turns on, so in little boys, like 5-year-olds, there's no testosterone flowing yet. But in development, testosterone turns on for a while, and it causes little boys to grow their little boy parts. And it changes the brain so that even when a little boy is born, he's already got a different structure to his brain than a little girl. And if you ask any little boy's mom, he's not a little girl. I've had 4 little boys and 1 little girl, and I can tell you, little boys are much more active than little girls. In general, there are differences. There's a spectrum to behavior, but my little boys have been much more active than my little girl, much more aggressive than my little girl. And then once you go through puberty and you get testosterone, I've been around high school kids my whole life. If I have a classroom where 60 to 70% in my seating chart before I even start teaching, I know it's going to be boys. Oh boy. It's going to be a rough class. If I have a class that's like 60, 70% is going to be girls in the class, that's going to be an easy class. There are differences between boys and girls. Okay, so XY chromosomes. The big difference between a male and a female, or a boy and a girl, is that they have XX or XY chromosomes. Now, in the last 15 years, this new word has emerged, gender. And I really like the way Charlie Kirk handles this, so we're going to watch a couple quick Charlie Kirk videos to think about this from a Christian worldview.
So for one thing, you would make the claim that trans women are not women, and I think that is a harmful stance.
Okay, so what is a woman?
A woman was a gender, but a woman is a person that is female, you would say.
Gender is an artificial concept made up by John Money in the 1960s. There are no genders, there are 2 sexes, and there are unlimited personalities.
Well, you're...
Okay, so I just want to pause this. So notice, if this is your first time kind of hearing this debate, it's important for you to realize the debate has gotten to this place where gender and sex are like totally separate categories. When I was a kid, gender was just a synonym for sex, because if a form said sex on it, you'd be like, oh, that feels like a bad word. So a form would say gender because it felt like a word you should use rather than the word sex, because the word sex sounds bad. So they were just totally synonyms. Even for me as a young teacher, I had the word gender on worksheets because I just didn't want to say the word sex on a worksheet. But today, the word gender has been taken to mean a whole different category of thing than what sex a person is. And that's a very recent change. So notice that they're talking about 2 separate things when they talk about sex and gender. And then I also want you to realize Charlie gives a very specific view here, and I'm going to back it up and let him say it again.
There are no genders, there are 2 sexes, and there are unlimited personalities.
Well, you're...
Okay, so to deal with this gender stuff that's hit our culture in the last 15 years, Charlie takes a stance and he says there are no genders, there are 2 sexes, and there are many or unlimited personalities. And I think that's one good way of trying to maneuver through this gender language that is kind of taken over a part of our country or a part of our world, okay? And so let's see where this debate goes from here.
Your personality is unique to you. Your gender is a category that you fall into.
I thought that gender is fluid. So can trans women give birth?
No, but I don't think all women can give birth.
Can somebody self-identify as a leopard?
A leopard, no, because a
Why?
leopard has a definition of it's a different species. You can't identify as
But
something
hold on,
that you aren't.
but it's a different sex, so you can't identify as a different sex.
You can't, you're right. I wouldn't say that trans women are biologically assigned female at birth. That's just not
Oh,
true.
okay, so
but
what you're
gender
saying is that
only
they're
matters, it's only
masquerading.
relevant in your role in society, the way that you're viewed.
It's not just about the roles in what they are. We are fundamentally different at our core. Our brain structures are different, our hormone levels are different, our needs, our wants, our desires, how we talk and process information. God made us uniquely different. It's not just how you look, it's not just how you present. A biological man can put on a bunch of makeup and camouflage as a woman. It will never actually make him a woman. It will not make him think like a woman or act like a woman. And so the whole idea of transgenderism is inherently super disrespectful to biological reality and real women themselves. saying that it is just an outfit or a costume that women can go put on and you magically become a woman.
So I think he makes some really good points there, and I appreciate that Charlie, if you ever watched him back when he was doing his thing, he would kind of match the tone of a person. And so with this guy, this is more about ideas. And so he's pushing back pretty hard because this is ideas versus ideas. When he talks about biological reality, okay, there's been this push in our society to say that whatever I feel in myself, which is like, who knows what that is, that's not science. Whatever I feel in myself is what's most important. And Charlie says, no, there's biological realities. If you have an X and a Y chromosome, you have testosterone, and it's affecting the way your body looks on the outside and the things that happen even on the inside of your body. And I think as Christians, it's important for us to get back to, or I don't know that we've ever gotten away from, God made man male and female. And so this is a conversation Jesus is having with the Pharisees, I think, and he says to them, haven't you read the scriptures? They record from the beginning that God made them male and female. And he's quoting Genesis 1:27. Male and female is just biological reality. People are either males or they are females. There's no third category. There's not an endless amount of categories to identify as. And this is something that's based in reality because it's based off of chromosomes, and it's that gene SRY I talked about. It's very much based off the expression of this gene SRY that's on the Y chromosome. All this other stuff where you're saying, oh, I just identify as this or identify as that. Well, like you can't, like he said in that video, you can't identify as a bobcat. So it doesn't make sense to be able to identify as a different sex. But then they transport this word gender in and just add complexity to the conversation where it's not needed. So I actually like Charlie's view, no genders, okay? There's biological sex and there's personality. There's also one more verse I wanted to share with you though on this, and that's that Jesus, one thing they said about Jesus is that he's full of grace and truth. And it's possible for us as Christians to come in so strong with the truth that we don't have any grace toward people. Especially on an issue like this, for me as a person of science, I could just be so mean and cold about the truth on this topic. And unfortunately, I mean, I remember when this first started, probably 2019, where this started actually coming into public schools. And I remember a kid asked me a question in class about like, so I can't even remember what the question was, but it was like this kid didn't even know the basic biological reality of male and female anymore because of the stuff in social media and in the world. And it's nuts how confused people can become about the truth. Because if they're not in church, if they don't have truth, if they don't have the Bible, if they don't have Jesus, if they don't have God in their life, like they could just get taken anywhere. And so check out this next video. In the first video, Charlie really is, pretty firm and aggressive. But in this video, he's much more compassionate because he knows he's dealing with someone who's been really screwed up by this terrible demonic lie about transgenderism.
Differences and distinctions matter.
I just want to say I'm a transgender male. What age should kids be able to get things like hormone therapy? Because I don't know what's true, what's not.
Tell me, are you comfortable telling me your story?
I've known that since like 3rd grade, and I'm currently 19, almost 20. I've known basically since then. I didn't start going by like a different name until 7th and 8th grade. I just don't know, like with the whole medical stuff, like what's true, what's not, what's helpful, because I've heard so many different opinions.
First of all, thank you so much for that.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm going to have an opinion that very few people will ever tell you, which is I want you to be very cautious putting drugs into your system in the pursuit of changing your body. Mm-hmm. I instead encourage you to work on what's going on in your brain first. I think what you need first and foremost is just a diagnosis. Mm-hmm. Just someone that is going to listen to what you've gone through, listen to what else is going on. My prayer for you, and again, very few people will say this, I actually want to see you be comfortable in how you were born.
Yeah.
I know that you might not feel that way, but I think that is something that you can achieve. I think that with the right team and the right people, you don't have to wage war on your body, you can learn to love your body.
And yeah, that's it. Those kind of situations that break my heart. I mean, we have objective, real measures of what you are. You're a male or you're a female based on what's on the outside of your body. And you don't need to go off this subjective experience of like, you're a third grader, you don't know anything, you know? How sad that the world around you has confused you to the point that you think that what's going to make you happy is to identify as something that you aren't. And I think he was very tender to that girl, but he has it right. Like, and chopping parts of your body off and giving yourself chemical injections for the rest of your life is not the solution. And so it's very sad. So there's a place to stand up for the truth, and there's also a place to be really gracious and compassionate and to just pray for people and to try to help them in their time of confusion. Now, notice that I have a blue chromosome and a pink chromosome for every chromosome. This is because half of your chromosomes came from your dad and half of them came from your mom. When they first made you and you were a single cell in the womb, you had 23 chromosomes from mom, 23 chromosomes from dad. And the blue ones, I'm coloring blue for boy, and the pink ones, coloring pink for girl, half of them came from your dad, half of them came from your mom. They made this one cell, and that cell divided and divided and divided and made your whole body. And your whole body's descended from that one cell that came from 23 chromosomes from mom, 23 chromosomes from dad. And all of the chromosomes and cells that have come since then are exact copies of that cell that they first made that became you, or that was you, or that is you. I don't know how to think about that exactly. One more thing, we can talk about that in terms of chromosomes, or we can talk about that in terms of DNA. In terms of DNA, those 46 chromosomes stretch out to 6 feet, but they're not 6 feet pure, they're 6 feet chopped into 46 pieces. So the fact that you have one from mom, one from dad for each one, we call these homologous chromosomes. That didn't quite fit. So in humans, every cell has 6 feet of DNA cut into this many parts, 46. And each part forms a chromosome. This is how many chromosomes come from each parent. You get 23 from mom, 23 from dad. The name for each matching pair of chromosomes, homologous chromosomes. Notice that these homologous chromosomes are identical, but they are shaped like an X. But then sometimes you'll see one that's shaped like a line. So what's that about? So if you're on the computer and you look up chromosomes, here's what you get. You get pictures like this. Ooh, pretty fancy chromosomes. Okay, here's one. They're trying to show you a gene with that yellow band right there. A gene takes up a certain amount of space on a chromosome. Here's another picture of a chromosome. That might be real. And they're showing you some bands again to show you where a gene is located on a chromosome. There's the X chromosome, I think from the previous picture that I had. Here's a weird picture of a chromosome. But then sometimes, look at this, these are linear. They're not X-shaped anymore. These are linear chromosomes. I don't know what's going on under a black light with these. Here's another linear chromosome right here. They're showing you the Y chromosome, but the X chromosome down here is linear as well. It's just one chromosome. Here's another linear chromosome, just a line. Another linear chromosome. Linear, and then we've got an X next to it. So what's the story on these different shapes of chromosomes? So here's the story. This is called an unreplicated chromosome. And he's unreplicated, he's just him by himself. But if the cell's about to divide, he needs to make a copy of himself before the cell divides so that when he makes a new cell, both cells get a copy. So when he replicates himself, or she replicates herself, they make total copies of each other, and these copies are called sisters, the legs. And remember, the leg of a chromosome is called a chromatid. So these are called sister chromatids because they're exact identical twins. And so once a chromosome has replicated itself, its legs become identical twins with each other, and it's now a replicated chromosome. Okay, so we come over here. The name for an identical copy of the same chromatid is a sister chromatid. Okay, the X-shaped chromosome, whenever you see it as an X shape, it's already been replicated. This is the linear shaped or straight chromosome. That is the unreplicated, the not yet copied one. So check this out, cell division. When the cell's going to divide, it needs replicated chromosomes. Then it can go through division, rip those guys in half, and they come apart into these. So here's a picture of that happening. You start out with your chromosomes attached to each other. They get attached to by these fibers. They rip them apart, and you can see them coming apart. And they're like, goodbye. And they have to say goodbye to each other because they're going to go and each live in their own house called a cell. Here's a picture of the real thing. It's a special part of mitosis where the chromosomes get ripped apart and have to say goodbye to each other. Very sad. On the upside, while I was searching for pictures of this, it's called anaphase, I found there's a handbag you can get of a picture of it, or if you go down further, you can get it on a, let's see what else, you can get it on a nice tote for the beach, or I think there was a coffee mug. Yeah, get anaphase on your coffee mug. All kinds of great Christmas gifts for your mom. So this process happens during cell division. Now this cell that's about to be divided is called the parent cell. And these cells that get made are called daughter cells. I don't know what they got against the boys. We got sister chromatids, daughter cells, nothing for the boys on this stuff. So we go over to the notes. At the start of cell division, this is how many legs or chromatids every chromosome has. So at the start of cell division, we go over here and count. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 legs on every chromosome. Quattro. And at the end of cell division, this is how many legs or chromatids every chromosome has. When we finish off, he now only has 2. Dos. Okay, and this is the name of the cell that is about to divide. That's the parent cell. And this is the name of the 2 cells produced by cell division. They're called daughter cells. All right, this brings us back to the big question. How does biology show that God only created 2 sexes? I'm going to give you another good answer to this when we teach about meiosis, which is like lesson 5 or 6. I think it's lesson 5. But when we look at chromosomes, we only see 2 options. You're either XX or you're XY when things are going well. So that means God intended for man and woman to be the 2 options. I have so much more I could say about this because there are some anomalies, but I'm going to keep it simple for you right now. If I ever get to teach a really high-level biology class, we could go into all the unique situations that can also occur. Time does not permit. In one sentence, though, if you're curious about those things, the fall. As Christians, we know that the world was good when God made it, and some things have come about because of sin. Hope you're all having a fabulous day. May the force be with you. Peace out, Girl Scouts.